This is Bless Radio. It's 6 p.m. UK time, and this is the spiritual discussion program. The aim of the show is to introduce you to the spiritual knowledge in the light of truth, the Grail message by Uprushin. My name is Saad, and I'm in southeast London. And with me, as usual, is Gregory. Gregory, how are you, and how is the weather where you are?
One is fine. It is bright, hot.
Very good. Same here. I can say bright and hot and then a little breezy. Or at least that I can see the trees are moving at the moment, but it's been pretty hot today, like you say. So welcome, listeners, to the Spiritual Discussion Program. Every week we have a new topic for discussion. The topic tonight is Earthbound. Earthbound. You are welcome to join us with any questions or comments by contacting us on our UK number, which is 079 39 641 958. You can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And if you're outside of UK, it is 0044 79 39 641 958. Again, you can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And there's one other way to contact us, which is by going to the website where we are broadcasting. That is blessradio1, that's the number 1.com. And if you scroll down on the homepage, you'll see a box called Bless Chat. There you can type the Grail message in the light of truth by Uprushin is a spiritual knowledge of life. It offers an explanation of the world, a picture of creation on the basis of natural laws. Its lectures contain valuable basic elements as a help in life. For through the knowledge mediated, the reader is again brought closer to life and led back to God. The Grail message deals with important fundamental questions of life by explaining in a clear and logical way the automatic working of the laws of nature, the whole weaving of creation, allowing every process to be recognized and thereby the purpose of our whole life. It is directed at the individual and speaks to the innate experiences of the human being, their strengths and weaknesses. Thus, every reader has the opportunity to discover, through the intuitive perception, if what is stated is the truth. Combining with matter-of-fact reasoning, a complete world picture arises, where there is no separation between the visible world and the great world beyond the five senses, nor any separation between scientific and religious striving for knowledge. I'd like to give you a couple of quotes from the author of the Grail message, Uprushin. The hearer and reader of my lectures should always work within himself, keenly probing and building bridges from one lecture to the other, as well as out into the great and small world happenings. Only then will he be able to understand the Grail message and find that it gradually shapes itself into one complete whole without leaving any gaps. Again and again, in all the happenings, the reader will come back to the basic features. He can explain everything without having to change even one single sentence. The word of the Grail message lives so that it permits only those people who really carry the honest desire in their souls to find abundantly. All else is automatically rejected by it. For the arrogant and those who seek superficially, the message will remain the book with 7 seals. And I'd like to give you one more quote from the author. I wish to fill the gaps which have so far always remained unanswered in the souls of men, and which never leave any serious thinker in peace, if he earnestly seeks for the truth. So, dear listeners, have any questions or comments, you can contact us on our UK number, which is 079 39 641 958. You can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And if you're outside of UK, it is 00447939641958. Again, you can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And there's one other way to contact us, which is by going to the website where we are broadcasting, that dictionary. And it's only one word, well, it's two words in one, you can say. So the word tonight is Earthbound. And I did find that in the dictionary. I wasn't sure it would be there, but it is. And that it says, it has given two meanings in the dictionary. Before I do that, listeners, I just wanted to comment from last week to this week. We've had two sort of big events in the world. Well, maybe one is not in the whole world, but anyways, one was the plane crash for Air India. From India, it was leaving in the city of Ahmedabad to coming to London in UK, and unfortunately, it crashed on soon after takeoff, with 241 passengers killed and one passenger surviving, and the cause is unknown. But that was, I know we do hear about air crashes, but that happened over this last week. And the other big news is that Israel attacked Iran. It seems they say to stop them developing the nuclear bomb that Iran they think is making. So, and that was, let's say, surprising for many of us. So that's what is the big news. And also, there seemed to be a political angle as well. They wanted to, they said asking the people of Iran to rise up against their leaders. So that was another point of it. So, and then the people might be wondering or fearing that this could lead to Third World War because other people could get a flightless earthbound bird. So, Gregory, is that a good definition of the word earthbound?
It is precise intellectually. That means the picture one has, which is described by the dictionary, which dictionary relies basically on the perceptions that the human individual has, the five senses. It is precise.
Right.
But it hasn't the intuitive picture or the framework of the laws through which all that exists rests. That has not been considered in this particular instance.
Right. So let's look at the second meaning. It might be better. Let's say look at a bit wider. Meaning of the word earthbound in the dictionary: limited to material existence as distinct from a spiritual or heavenly one. How good is this one, Gregory?
Again, these are limited pointers.
Okay.
These limited pointers, as you will find almost in every language which is utilized, in this particular case, in English language, whatever language one is considering, if that language does not consider wholly the framework of the laws of nature or the laws of creation, then it is more of an expression which has been picked out of context. That means the context of creation has not been considered, becomes more like an arbitrary word in whatever language. But whenever the laws of creation or the laws of nature are considered, then the picture changes, because it becomes very clear what is meant by whatever expression. By expression, one now refers to a language.
Okay, I'm trying to get a understanding of what you've said there, the language. Okay, but I will let's say explore that a bit further later on. So I was wondering, let me ask one thing more on that definition, Gregory, because it says limited to material existence as distinct from spiritual or heavenly one. So when we say earthbound, is it not beyond, you're bound to this earthly material world, you could say, and then there's, let's say, some idea that there's something beyond this earthly material world. So that is like your limitation, if I'm, because the word bound, it means you're limited somehow or restricted, as we said. So it seems that there's a world beyond the earth or material, and that's what it means to be earthbound. Is that like a good way to look at it?
To be able to look at something, looking itself is a perception in which one considers maybe one's physical eyes or an impression. It is the concepts which an expression conveys that help to open the path for further examination or limits that path for further examination. Here we are, we will say a stone is earthbound. We will say the moon is earthbound, or the sun is earthbound, or we here on earth, we are earthbound. What are we referring to? What is it that is earthbound?
Right.
You see, these are the things, all right, that one has to consider. And that's why one was referring to the framework. What is it that is earthbound? Is it the stone or the plant or the human soul? And what is a human soul? And other than the earth, are there any others? So when expressions like this come up, there must be the consideration of a holistic concept, not partial.
Thank you for this answer, and it really allows us to see what this world actually is about. Is it this, like you say, stone? Is it the sun, a moon, or the sun? Or is it us human beings? As of course, when you think of the word world, it's much bigger than just all these items, if I can say. The world is much more than just these items. Okay, let's continue to explore. So we are saying earthbound. So what is earthbound? Okay, let's see. So Gregory, for me, all our topics, we call it spiritual discussion program. So there's something always spiritual in our discussion. And let's say from our many shows, we have get to know that we human beings are actually a spirit or spiritual beings. So, which means, and these spiritual beings are not from the earth, although we live on this earth, we come from the spiritual world. That is, how can I say, the basic, understanding that we are starting with. But maybe people are not aware of that. So there's the world that on earth that we live, and actually there's also a spiritual world, which is not on this earth. So that is, and then when you now put this word concept of earthbound in regards to the human being, because the reason I say this is because the other items, if I can use that word items, is sun, moon, and I've forgotten the other one. It is all, how can I say, they are not living beings, let's call it. They are just, I'll just, I will use the word objects, but I know there's more. These are all very simplistic words to identify these, to group these words together. So basically, but we are living beings, human beings. So when I think of the word earthbound, I'm thinking of, yes, the sun is limited to the material world. The moon is limited to the material world. However, the human being is supposed to be not from the earth, so they should not be limited to the earth alone. That's the best. That's how I'm looking at this topic actually. So I'm thinking it's the human beings which are earthbound, or that's what we are going to discuss. Let's say. So, would you like to say something on that, Gregory?
Not really. One is waiting for the question, so one can frame it properly.
But I just want to say that's the topic that I'm understanding by the word earth, of this topic about earthbound. It is about human beings being earthbound rather than the sun or the moon. That's what, is that how you take it as well?
Actually, one is considering a holistic concept. Human beings that are earthbound. The concept of boundedness, one has to look at it very carefully, and that is why in providing solutions to questions, providing answers to questions, the effort is made to make it understandable with respect to the framework of creation. And that is what one wishes to get into. And that which is much deeper than just saying, okay, it is human beings, it is. But with the question, one will then take it very gradually and explain all the mechanics. What is earthbound? How come this is earthbound?
Thank you for that answer, Gregory. Okay. Now, I wanted to first, Gregory, define this concept of earthbound. Yes, there's the human beings we've talked about already, but it's like, what is this world where there's that, let's say, where we exist, or that actually exists, where there's this earth, and this word earthbound or earth, how can I say, is not just earth, physically the earth alone. I take it to be, because we are, as you say, Gregory, we're not just supposed to look at the dictionary meaning of the words. We're supposed to go deeper than that and take it in regards with the laws of nature or creation, when we look at these concepts. So let's just clarify that what world that we are discussing here. So there's the earth, agree, and then let's say there's a world beyond this earth. So could you just explain that these world that we are? So we have like that context of what are we, when we discuss earthbound, what are we talking about? Is it just a physical earth, the planet that we are on, or is it more than that? And then what is the world beyond the earth when we talk about earthbound?
When that expression earthbound is used, there is the first word there, earth. the earth can be taken as a point, can be taken as a place where there is a congregation of human personalities that have a physical body, which physical body can be recognizable using the five senses which that body has. That being the case, there may be all others who are human personalities but do not have the physical body of flesh and blood, but who are also around, who through their activities to some extent experience some happenings on the earth, but they are in the nearest neighborhood of the earth. It means that you cannot perceive these people with the five senses, but they are there in other bodies. The concept one is trying to put across here is that of boundedness. In some areas, there is something is inbound. That means if you are discussing that which is inbound, that means coming towards the earth. Then when within the earth, again, there is that boundedness. And when one is moving away from the earth, that is outbound. So there are three areas which the individual needs to consider. Whether the person has the body of flesh and blood or not. Basically, what is referred to, or those who are referred to with the concept of earthbound, are those who lack that body of flesh and blood, but are unable to sever themselves outbound. Outbound because having lost the use of the body of flesh and blood, there is the need to move away. That means to be outbound from the earth, but they are unable to for one reason or the other. The other case is where those who are inbound towards the earth, that means they are coming towards the earth. So these are the scenarios one wishes or one hopes to discuss. The question which keep arising is that a human personality, having had his activities using the body of flesh and blood, now needs to sever itself to move away, but is unable to. It's unable to move away to other places other than the earth or other than the world of matter in order to experience. That means it is still able to perceive activities, dense activities here on earth, but is unable to move away from it. For when it first came inbound to the earth, it came, or the possibility must have come from a different place other than the world of matter. So these are the whole process needs to be viewed aright in accordance with these laws of nature, which laws we have always discussed in this forum.
Thank you very much, Gregory, for this answer and picture you're painting. So there's basically, when we're talking about this topic of earthbound, we're talking about human beings, whether in flesh or not in flesh, you could say. And if they're in flesh, we're talking they're on this earth. If they're not, so that's the other point I wanted to clarify. You call it inbound and outbound, like a journey coming to the earth, like inbound, and then outbound, leaving the earth, which I could say is supposed to be when you die, not traveling like they say in space on a space craft to leave the earth. That's not the one we are talking about. We're talking about where you die and move into the beyond is another way to put it, or pass on. People use the word pass on. When some people die, they say that they have passed on. So passed on, you can say, where have they passed on? The easy word we use is beyond, but there's a world which is the beyond this earthly world, that's called it, or the world of matter, as Gregory's been. Well, we have to be careful because everything has a division, subdivision, or something. So when we use a very general word matter, yes, the earth world is matter, is part of matter. However, even when you pass on, there's still the world of matter there as well. So it's quite a, I could say, big picture that is required to appreciate this world that we live in, actually. So let's go back again. I just want to recap. So there are people on this earth, we're calling them in the flesh. So they're living on this earth. Then there's people who have passed on, who have left their flesh, so left their body, and they exist in a world, which we will discuss further in a moment. And now we want to bring in this concept of earthbound. So with it, are you, just to clarify, Gregory, again, those who are on the earth in the flesh, are they would we call them earthbound?
Thank you for that particular question. This is what one was considering. Yes, they are earthbound because they do have the body of flesh and blood, which is of the earth. So, over a period of time, from the time of their incarnation to the time where they drop this body of earth, of flesh and blood, they are bound to the earth. To be bound to the earth, that needs some further clarification. For when one considers that before they were bound to the earth, they must have existed somewhere. And in their activities, in their volitions, in their intuitive perceptions, that has become like a lever that directed them towards the earth. And that being the case, they have incarnated in the womb of their mothers and have been born such that they now have the use of the body of flesh and blood. that body of flesh and blood is one part of it. There is another body which one may refer to as not of flesh and blood, but through a process of radiations is able, or through the process of radiation is connected to the physical body. And it is the soul, the core of which is the human personality, referred to as spirit, that makes use of this physical body. So it seems that there are two parts. That which is perceivable using the five senses, and the other parts which is a bundle, which is a body, which is able, through its radiations, through its radiation and emotion, is able to make use of the physical body of flesh and blood. Whilst here on earth, that bond is bounded. That bond in which there is a streaming of radiation from the soul to the physical body, and also a streaming of radiation from the physical body to the soul. This streaming of radiation from the physical body only manifests through the radiations of the blood, of the earthly blood. It is that radiation between the earthly blood and the radiation of the soul. When there is a balance, it's as if the human personality is now able to make use of the physical body, which is perceptible, which we all have. In that case, there is a bonding. That is, the human soul is bounded. Maybe to some extent one can see how the word, that expression bound, earthbound, came in. Is bounded to experience using the physical body of flesh and blood. However, at the time of separation of the physical body from the soul, that which is of the physical body of flesh and blood lies prostrate. It falls because it's unable to generate that radiation will make a balance. One may use the expression, things have fallen apart. Things will only fall apart when the center, which is the balance, cannot hold. When you now have that particular scenario, the soul is permitted to wander off. But if it doesn't wander off, it still hangs around, then it is earthbound.
Thanks a lot, Gregory, for this picture. And I want to explore it a lot more in a moment. So, dear listeners, I would like to let you know you're listening to Blessed Radio. This is the Tuesday evening spiritual discussion program from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. UK time. The aim of the show is to introduce you to the spiritual knowledge in the light of truth, the Grail message by Abdushin. If you wish to know more about the Grail message or want to get a copy of the Grail message for yourself, you can go to this website, which is www.grailmessage.com. I'll spell that. www.grail, Grail, message, MESSAGE.com. And the topic that we are discussing tonight is Earthbound. Earthbound. If you have any questions or comments, you can contact us on our UK number, which is 079 39 641 958. You can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And if you're outside of UK, it is 0044 79 39 641 958. Again, you can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And there's one other way to contact us, which is by going to the website where we are broadcasting. That is blessradio1, that's the number one, .com. If you scroll down on the homepage, you'll see a box called Bless Chat. There you can type in any questions or comments. And we are also broadcasting on YouTube. Go to youtube.com and type in the search box Bless Radio 1, that's the number 1 there again, space, Grail message, space, the topic tonight, which is Earthbound. So that's go to youtube.com, type in the search box Bless Radio 1, the number 1 there, space, Grail message, space, Earthbound. And you can listen to the recording of this show straight after the show, also on YouTube, again with the same search words. And of course, you can listen to the recording of our other previous past shows, also on YouTube. Thirdly, we are broadcasting on Zeno, that is ZENO.FM/radio/Bless Radio 1. That's the number 1 again. Now, Gregory, I just want to again recap about what you were saying to my previous question, about the human being. Is he bound by being in flesh on this earth? And then what you said was to really give the picture of what a human being really is. We think of the human being on the earth as if that's all there is to know. But actually we know it's much more than that. So the true human being is not just the body that we see on this earth. There's also a soul. And even more important to note that there's also a spirit. So that's a spirit, soul, and body. Both soul and spirit do not come from this earthly world. They already exist. Or not all, both of them, but they are coming from beyond this material world that we are very familiar with of the earth. So as you pointed out, Gregory, that it actually existed before. The spirit has existed before it landed on this earth. And so there's a journey where the spirit started, let's call it in the beyond, in the spiritual world, and it started the journey there, and on its way to this earth, this material world, it passed through another world, which we're going to call, in a simple way, soul world, you can say. and by entering that soul world, it had to wear the body of the soul world, a body from that world, and then eventually it came onto this earth wearing the flesh and body, the flesh and blood that we have on this earth. And the blood is actually a connecting. That's another point you made. It's a connection for our spirit to operate on this earth through radiations. That's how it operates. So without going to every single detail, but the basic thing is to know that we are on this earth, we have the spirit, the soul, and the physical body. And it is the spirit that is the driver of this human being on this earth. In fact, it's always the driver. The spirit is always the driver, wherever it happens to be. But by being on the earth, we are wearing a number of bodies. That's what we need to be familiar with. So being on earth, of course, we are earthbound in the flesh, for sure. However, that is, let's say, just the starting point. It's not. It doesn't give everything in the concept of what we're talking in the topic that we are talking about tonight. Earthbound. In fact, Gregory, what I want to say, earthbound, simply put, in being in the flesh, it doesn't look like anything bad or negative there. However, when you think of the concept of earthbound, saying restricted and whatever, there seem to be some limitation, earthbound, and even that limitation may not sound, in quotes, negative, but it seems there's a sort of a hint that you're bound, almost like you're trapped. I know we didn't use that word trapped, but it feels like you're trapped by using this word earthbound. So can I first ask Gregory, when we are thinking of the word earthbound, are we saying we are, let's say, is it, how can I say, something that makes us trapped, let me say, or do we have freedom as when we are earthbound?
When that expression earthbound is used, there is a restriction to the capabilities of the motions or the activities on Earth. These restrictions also these restrictions manifest in the use of the senses which the individual use in experiencing the five senses which we know or which we all have. So in that case, it may seem that one is trapped. However, that expression trapped, depending on one's inner attitude, it may seem that it's as if one has no alternative and is trapped in a body, or is trapped in a hole, trapped somewhere, is unable to move out. But that is not the case. What happens in this particular scenario is that there is a physical body which the individual needs to use with the five senses to experience on Earth. However, there is the individual's intuition, which intuition is able to communicate impressions from out of the earth, from out of the world of matter, also communicate impressions from the spirit. These impressions from the spirit are so very fast. These impressions from the spirit need to be actualized here on earth. And that can only be done in a slower pace than is done in its origin in paradise. The question one may ask, why is that so? Because the human personality in its origin in the paradise of man, the impressions there are very swift. The impressions of will and deed are inseparable. But whilst here on earth, the impressions of will and deed are separable, such that the human personality that has the physical body is able to will something, and gradually it comes into deed because of the densification process that the earth has, or the world of matter. And in that case, is able to learn gradually. Were it able to have learned gradually back home as an unconscious spirit gem, there will be no need for it to have come down to this area of matter, particularly the earth, where it needs to slow down and to be able to grasp these impressions, these learning impressions, little by little. A grace was granted to it such that starting as an unconscious spirit personality, that means starting like a child, it's able to learn the language of the laws of nature gradually in a slower pace. Only when it has internalized these laws of nature within this slow environment is it able to act in its activities much faster. It's like the first time you want to learn to speak your language, or a particular language, maybe your mother tongue or your father tongue. You start slowly. You don't start rattling things, and you learn very gradually. The first time a child wishes to, ride a bicycle, it starts slowly. It doesn't start riding as if it's a racing person. He now knows. The first time you want to learn to play a musical instrument, you start slowly. And over time, you gather experience because you've internalized certain notes, then you can hurry up a bit. It is the same thing. Here on it, due to density or the process of densification, the individual learns, internalizes whatever experiences, it internalizes this and is able, if it allows this impression to go back to the spirit, is able to make use of these experiences in spirit, such that is able to grow in spirit, is able to understand, albeit gradually, the laws of nature, of creation, as to become gradually, in a step-by-step manner, very strong. That is why I came to the earth. Having departed from the earth, having understood this language which the earth is able to offer, then is able to sever itself and move further towards its home, where the impressions are swifter.
Thanks very much, Gregory, for this picture you're giving us and explaining, you could say, our journey as a human spirit to the earth, which is about experiencing, maturing, and using our abilities, developing our abilities and using those abilities. And in a sense, the earth, you've explained it that where we come from as a spirit, the spiritual world, the activity is too fast for us to, you could say, develop ourselves and work there. So we have been sent to a world which is slower, which is this earth. But to travel to get to the earth, we had to go through these different worlds, which each world is of a different, you could say, material, or we have to take in a body basically of each of these worlds that we travel through to get to the earth, and which we have just mentioned earlier: spirit, soul, and the physical body. And so the point is, we are now on this earth, and you can say, oh, we are earthbound, like you say, restricted. Restricted in the sense we can't be as free as if we were in the spiritual world. And one thing you pointed out is, in the spiritual world, or in this, when you have your will or wish, or it becomes deed immediately. While on this earth, when we have our wish or will, it doesn't materialize immediately, as we can know. Even you have to work on it to make it materialize. It's not just that way. So that's a difference between this spiritual world and then this earthly world, and that's a restriction, you could call it, of being on the earth. So we are earthbound in this way, some sort of limitation there, and that is not, in quotes, something negative. It's just reality of being in a different world. It's like you could say to a different country, they have different rules and laws there, or culture, and you're supposed to follow, even as a stranger, what the rules of the local customs and society is there, not just what you're used to where you come from. So this is like that. You can think it in that way. Not although this is an earthly example, but it's a similar. Can give you a bit of a picture there. So that's part of the story of being earthbound. And I'm just thinking, just to get clarity a little bit further, Gregory, this word earthbound, or the word specifically bound, is it we are meant to be just, let's say, I'm going to use the word stuck on this earth, or is there something more, something else going to happen? Because we have traveled from, like we say, from the spiritual through the different worlds to get to this earth. Now, are we meant to now stay on this earthbound, to develop ourselves here, or is there something else that is meant to happen?
At the beginning, where the human personality set off as an unconscious spirit seed grain. What is the purpose? The purpose is to first understand, or to become conscious of itself, of its surrounding, and subsequently self-conscious. With the self-consciousness, it becomes aware. It has now developed those traits which are sown in it, those abilities which have been sown in it as a spirit gem. The development of these traits, of these talents, is synonymous with self-consciousness in the sense that these traits will now come to the fore when the human personality attains to self-consciousness. Before then, these traits are dormant. In the process of developing these traits, it has to move out of the environment which is its true home in order to experience. Through the experiences, these traits, these talents are brought to the fore. These talents are developed such that it will now know how to use these traits, these talents, for the benefit, first, for itself, and subsequently for the benefit of all. Just as others have paved the way, have prepared the different environment, which different environment only came through the will of the giver of life, and also through the love that the giver of life has established in this creation, and also finally in the world of matter. For huge armies of individuals who are connected made these worlds, particularly the world of matter, possible. Just as they have put in the efforts to support the human personality, first as a spirit gem who needs to become conscious and self-conscious, it is expected that the human personality, when it has become self-conscious, will join in the chorus, in the mediation of the power that streams from on high, in the further development of opportunities for others, just as the opportunities were developed for himself or herself. That is all. For in doing that, just as much has been prepared for him, which brought him or her joys and happiness, he is now permitted to participate because he or she now understands the language of creation, the language of the Lord that made it possible for him or her to experience, he now joined in the chorus, such that through his activities, others may yet share in these streams of power in becoming self-conscious. That is the task of the human personality. So the human personality only comes to the earth in order to experience, to facilitate its experiencing. There are many other beings which have come together to make it possible. Of course, before the human personality came to the earth itself had to be prepared. The elements, before biological plants came in, before the animals then took over, and finally, all the elements. These things were not put in an arbitrary manner. They were orders that contributed in their activities to make it possible for man to come in and experience. And it's only right, in accordance with the will of the Lord Almighty, that he himself, having become self-conscious, should be of support to others who will come after him to also become conscious and self-conscious. Then there will be a world without end.
Thank you very much, Gregory, for this answer, and you could say, giving the bigger picture of our task as human beings. Starting as an unconscious spirit germ or seed. You can imagine that on this earth, planting a seed, and then it becoming into a plant, and then tree, and bearing fruit. So we human beings started as a spirit seed. We've been on this journey from the spiritual down to this earth to become from unconscious to conscious. And not only just become conscious, to become self-conscious. So, which means we have this free will to make decisions. If we want to go in direction A, B, C, D, whatever it is, okay, or path, and how we want to, what we want to do, so that's a big, you could say, freedom to be able to do that. And then with this freedom, we also have been given a responsibility to act, you could say, in the furtherance of this world of creation that we are living in, and to support it through our abilities and through this our free will, because we can now direct what we wish in a particular direction. I would say, which can be beneficial, it could be harmful. It's our choice which direction we would like to go. And Gregory, as you know, many times you say all for one and one for all. So obviously, we are not one here on our own. We have many fellow human beings, not only human beings, other beings, the world that we inhabit. And surely it is clear that we are supposed to, just like other creatures as well, we're supposed to make, make things, uplifting things, or make the world happy and joyous and peaceful. Not just in quotes, our selfish ideas that do this only or do that only. It must benefit. That's the point. Benefit us and benefit the world that we live. So this is the gift that we have been given. We're going to keep exploring further about this topic of Earthbound in a moment. I want to let the listeners know that you're listening to Bless Radio, and this is the Tuesday evening spiritual discussion program. The aim of the show is to introduce you to the spiritual knowledge in the light of truth, the Grail message by Abrushin. If you wish to know more about the Grail message or want to get a copy of the Grail message, you can go to this website, which is www.grailmessage.com. I'll spell that, www.grail, Grail, message, MESSAGE.com. And as I've already mentioned, the topic that we're discussing tonight is Earthbound. If you have any questions or comments, you can contact us on our UK number, which is 079 39 641 958. You can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And if you're outside of UK, it is 0044 79 39 641 958. Again, you can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And there's one other way to contact us, which is by going to the website where we are broadcasting. That is Bless Radio 1. That's the number 1.com. And if you scroll down the search box, Bless Radio 1, the number 1 there, space, Grail message, space, Earthbound, which is the topic for tonight. And of course, you can listen after this show. You can listen to a recording of this tonight's show. Again, in the same way, go to youtube.com and type in the search box, Bless Radio 1. That's the number 1 there again. Space, Grail message, space, Earthbound, which is the topic for tonight. And you can also listen to the recordings of our previous shows also on YouTube. Thirdly, we are broadcasting on Zeno, that is ZENO.fm/radio/Bless Radio 1. That's the number 1 there. Now, Gregory, we've got like a big picture now of the journey of the human being. So we started in the spiritual as a unconscious spirit germ or seed. We traveled down to this earth, the idea being to become conscious, not only conscious, self-conscious, and experiencing and developing our abilities. And then once we have, you could say, matured and used our abilities and developed, we're supposed to now return. We're supposed to make it even a bigger picture to understand. So we came, we could say, from heaven, and we're supposed to build this heaven also on the earth, through our abilities, and then finally to return back to this spiritual world, our heaven, our heavenly home, as a matured human spirit. That's the self-conscious human spirit. So that's in summary the journey. And right now, of course, we are on this earth. So initially, when we talk about Earthbound up till now, it seems that is not, yes, it's restricted in the terms of ability, that we cannot do the same as much as we can do in a spiritual world. But then let's say there's an idea maybe that somehow there's a trap. I did use the word trap before. We are trapped on this earth. So although we haven't said that specifically, that we are trapped, but I wanted to check that with you, Gregory. Are we on this earth, how can I say, trapped, or because we made all the way jump back to earth, and now the final part of the journey is supposed to return back to the spiritual world. So, are we, let's say, being successful in our journey, or are we somehow trapped? Or if, yeah, can you give a little bit of a picture on that, please?
If we were trapped, then there will be no discussion. Now, if we were not trapped through our volitions, then in accordance with the laws of reciprocal activities, having started from the origin of man, which is the paradise of man, then the individual should have made use of the possibilities which are available to the earth, from the earth, to improve itself, and goes back home as a self-conscious human spirit. If, however, in making decisions, the volitions of his spirit, which could be weak, or if he relies or he enjoys the activities on earth so much that is unable to sever itself, because it likes it so much, or through some other type of weaknesses, it commits acts which bind it to the earthly environment because it needs to make reparations. In that case, it is trapped. It is trapped due to its own activities. It is trapped because, in accordance with the laws of the attraction of homogeneity, there must be something which is homogeneous in its activity, which locks it up on the earth, or some type of radiation which through its activities it has generated, and therefore is unable to move away, outbound away from the earth, to make progress towards home. That is where the trap is rightly applied. It is the human personality through its activities that has trapped itself, for it has lost its way, is unable to understand the language or the laws which govern creation, which permits it not only to come here to experience, to spend the time here, and subsequently to move away towards its home, outbound towards paradise. The human personality who is unable to do that, and who still hovers in the earthly environment, which human personality now lacks the body of flesh and blood, that human personality is trapped.
Thanks very much, Gregory, for that answer. So what you're saying is we through our activity, we can trap ourselves here basically on the earth. And I'm wondering, Gregory, what is it? I think you did mention it already. Let's say if we are, let's say, indulging in earthly, let's call it even addictions to the earthly things, material things, whether it's food, you could say money, or whatever is a materialistic wish that we might have, if we are too much engaged, I use the word addiction to make it, let's say, very clear how strong. It's nothing wrong to have money, nothing wrong with having eating food, of course not. But if it is excessive, you can say, desire, I'm not talking about people being fat. I don't mean that. It's just that people become so addicted that that's what they really want. And somehow they don't think, oh, is there more than just this world that I'm existing in? Is there more to this world? Because people think that, in fact, Gregory, what I want to really say, all this, what we have discussed right up to this point, it is beyond the earthly. It gives we have a knowledge or understanding of a world beyond just the earthly. And the word earthbound suggests that you are stuck on this earth. I know it's not bad to be on the earth. Yes, this is a place of development for us. However, there's a mission or purpose to our life journey, which is to return back to our home, the spiritual home. But then by being on this earth, let's say we get attached to certain earthly wishes in an excessive way, that we only want to have those things, whatever it happens to be. So it's not necessarily a sin that you're committing. It could be just anything that you're attached to, and that makes you this word we use, earthbound. And now you can see that this can be a trap, because the aim is to return back to this paradise, spiritual world, where we originate from. So this is what you can call our situation of being earthbound, for some of us, let's say, if we are not striving to go beyond the earthly. So now what I'm wondering about this, Gregory, is all this we've discussed right up till now, people may, how can I say, not be aware of it, that this is the purpose of their life. I would say majority of the human beings on the earth, their wish is to make the most of life on earth, which sounds fine, but it doesn't have let's say, a spiritual side on it, understanding about it. So, but how is it, that this journey that we have talked about, the spiritual journey, how is it that, let's say, most of us human beings are not aware of our purpose? Let me say like that, our real spiritual purpose. Why are we more, how can I say, keen to, let's say, I was going to use the word enjoy life on earth or be successful on the earth. How is that happening? That we have either forgotten or not aware about our big spiritual purpose, and we are more attached to the earthly sort of success or wishes?
The answer to such a question is imperative and very simple. The human personality on earth uses the physical body. This physical body has the brain. In the brain, there is the frontal brain and there is the back brain. Impressions from the spirit, that means vibrations from the spirit, first have an impact on the back brain, and these are the intuitive perceptions. In accordance with the laws of creation, these vibrations are to be passed on to the frontal brain, which will then make it earthly to be able to understand earthly activities. All these vibrations have an impact on the frontal brain, such that when these activities are fulfilled here on earth, in reciprocal actions, the frontal brain will take the responses and pass them on to the back brain and then back to the spirit. That is the cycle of experiences in the normal fashion. In that case, nothing is wasted. If, however, the human personality only focuses on earthly happenings and the impressions from the earth are not passed on to the back brain and then finally to the spirit, what it therefore means is that these impressions which have been gathered remains only on the earth, with those impressions not filtering back to the spirit. That ensures that the cycle of experiencing is densified, is limited to the impressions which have been gathered here on earth. No fresh wind, no fresh breeze comes from the spirit. And it is the spirit that really matters. So in that case, as you will find, that the individual focuses only here on earth without allowing impressions to come from the spirit, it becomes one-sided. And in that one-sidedness, where there is no balance between the radiations that come from on high, which only the spirit is capable of perceiving and making use of, and then the radiations which is supposed to come from reciprocal activities back to the spirit, once there's that divide, because the individual has the free will to be. To be means there must be that harmony between body and spirit. Not to be only means that the frontal brain takes up everything and leaves the spirit empty. And that particular scenario, such one-sidedness, will gradually lead to catastrophes. And that is why the earth is what it is today. Look at these quarrels between nations. All because some people are of different color, or they speak different languages, or they have different religions. But ask yourself, when they have to go back home as human personality, when they have left the earth, what language do they speak? Is it English? Is it German? Is it French? Or an African language? All those things fall apart because it's immaterial. these were only tools. If, however, they had cultivated the talents which lie deep within them, through which the Spirit kept sending information so that it will mature, then you will find that when a human personality meets another human personality, it will be all for one and one for all. It will be support for one another. Then there will be no wars because there's absolutely no need. Then there will be no envy because there's absolutely no need. Then there will be no uncouth language because there will be absolutely no need. That you have this sort of warfare always going on in which violence, they destroy one another. That is only possible where the rule of the frontal brain, which is referred to as the intellect, dominates. And that is why the problem persists. If, however, there is a move away to understand, or they move away and they strive to understand that this human personality that is here came from the same place as myself. Like you find people who, when they move away from their hometown and they meet themselves thousands of miles away, immediately they come together to talk their language or to share experiences. That is how it's supposed to be, in accordance with the attraction of homogeneity. For these are human species who are striving to build up, to become self-conscious. And it's only fair to work together, not to destroy one another.
Thanks very much, Gregory, for this answer and picture you're giving us about, let's say, how we have become and how we are meant to be. As a human, you could say family, rather than what they say, divide and rule and fight, which only cause destruction and no benefit to anyone. Even if it looks like some benefit, it's only temporary benefit, but actually we know whatever you do, there's always going to be something coming back. It might take 10 years, 100 years, but there's always a hit in the end coming back to the people. So it just seems we don't want to learn how to live life in the peaceful and happy way. Yes, listeners, you're listening to Bless Radio. This is the Tuesday evening spiritual discussion program from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. UK time. The aim of the show is to introduce you to the spiritual knowledge in the light of truth, the Grail message by Abdushin. If you wish to know more about the Grail message or want to get a copy of the Grail message for yourself, you can go to this website, which is www.grailmessage.com. I'll spell that, www.grail, Grail, message, MESSAGE.com. And the topic that we're discussing tonight is Earthbound. If you have any questions or comments, you can contact us on our UK number, which is 079 39 641 958. You can call, text, or use WhatsApp. If you're outside of UK, it is 0044 79 39 641 958. Again, you can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And there's one other way to contact us, which is by going to the website where we are broadcasting. That is blessradio1, that's the number one, .com. If you scroll down on the homepage, you'll see a box called Bless Chat. There you can type in any questions or comments. And we are also broadcasting on YouTube. Go to youtube.com and type in the search box Bless Radio 1, that's the number one again, space, Grail message, space, the topic tonight, which is Earthbound. After the show, you can listen to the recording of this show again on YouTube. Go to youtube.com and type in the search words. It's the same as in this live. It is Bless Radio 1, the number one there, space, Grail message, space, the topic tonight, which is Earthbound. And of course, you can listen to the recording of our previous shows also on YouTube. Thirdly, we are broadcasting on Zeno, that's ZENO.fm/radio/bless radio 1. That's the number one there. Now, Gregory, I've got some questions or points from a colleague who helps us with our show, with the questions. And her name is Harriet Jarvis Hoppe. And she's said a few points here. Some of them are questions, but I think we can just read them out. It says, Earthbound. Now, what is that? So many opinions, ideas, and the like. Yet, is not the clue in the title Earthbound? I will say we have looked at that already in our show, so I won't go through that now. So, yeah, I think we have clarified, I hope we have clarified this concept of Earthbound. Now, next point is Earthbound. Can it be more than gravity? And if so, what exactly does the binding? So, Gregory, I do want to check on that. How are we becoming? You said there's laws of creation operating. Bringing, you could say, law of attraction of homogeneous species, or law of attraction, of homogeneous species is one of the laws. And then there's law of reciprocal action. So, and then there's even a law, although we haven't mentioned it tonight, the law of gravity. These are universal laws of nature, that are acting. So, just want to clarify there, Gregory. Are these laws involved in us becoming earthbound? Are they involved in that?
First, there's the need for further clarification about these laws, such that the listener or the individual human personality will not start thinking that these laws just came in to punish people. No, or these laws have been made to do all sorts. First, these laws of nature or laws of creation which are mentioned, these, strictly speaking, are the laws of motion, which laws of motion concerns everything that is in motion. For motion itself is a law in creation. In our communications, we are involved with motion. In our interaction with whatever, maybe man or beast, these motion is involved. So motion is ubiquitous in all that exists in nature, in creation. Motion is always there. With that firmly well established, one must go further that there are only two types of motion. Just two types, not 100. First, that motion in which the end of the motion flows back to the beginning. And the other, the end of the motion does not flow back to the beginning. These two types considered form the laws of nature, laws of creation. That's in which the end of the motion flows back to the beginning, which some may call a vibration. That manifests as the law of reciprocal activity. That the end flows back to the beginning. That means there must be a pulling effect that brings it to its origin. In that case, one has that of the attraction of homogeneity. That law of attraction of homogeneity has its effects in where you have the same species. So within the same species, you have that attraction of homogeneity. So you find that a particular effect of which one is referred to where you have the end flowing back to the beginning, two things have now come out. Two things manifest. That of a reciprocal activity, and secondly, within the same species, that of the attraction of homogeneity. That being the case, this always is in all activities in creation, in nature, including the earth, any part of the universe. And then there is this other type in which the end does not flow back to the beginning. That only happens where you have the case of densification, where there is energy densification. Then you have what men refer to as gravitation. In this particular case, these become spiritual gravitation. For that which is denser sinks, whereas that which is lighter rises. All these things have been observed again and again and again. So that being the case, when one refers to that of spiritual gravitation, that is what she was referring to. Spiritual gravitation, not the earthly gravitation as such, in which the earthly body, which came into existence here on the earth, it needs to fall apart again, go back to its species. What is referred to here is the ability of the human personality, which has lost its physical body of flesh and blood, to go back to its origin. When it becomes earthbound, it is because there have been threads which are associated with the individual that makes it so dense that it cannot rise beyond its now new capability. So that which now delays the individual that it feels trapped is that of spiritual gravitation. For it has become so dense, and with density, things slow down so much that the individual, in most cases, is unable to sever itself. That means sever the soul and rise higher. Why? Because there must be something through its activities that keeps it down there.
Thank you so much, Gregory, for that picture about the laws. You can call them spiritual laws. Yes, we have gravity, we are familiar on the physical level, but there's also the spiritual gravity, which you can say is involved in our fate. Well, it's not only that particular law. We have mentioned the other laws, the law of reciprocity, can't even say it, the law of reciprocal action or reciprocity, another way to put it, and the other law of attraction of homogeneous species. These are given in the Grail message. When you examine them, it's very easy to follow it and follow them and make sense, you can say, of this world that we exist in. We won't go further into details on it now, but they're universal. They don't act just on simply the earthly level. They're working throughout the whole of this creation, the world that exists, you can say. So there's a spiritual world, there's the earthly world, and the world in between. All of them, the natural laws, the laws of nature, creation, as this just put in different ways, they act through all of those worlds. I just want to go through all the points that Harriet Hopper has put. The other one, it says, can it be something that seems indistinguishable from earthly gravity, and yet the consequence for those caught in its vice-like grip may one day regret having ignored the reality of being or becoming earthbound? I will say, Gregory, you've just covered that already, about that earthly gravity. It's not let's say, the one that is, you could say, holding us trapped on the earth, the physical one. There is the spiritual one, which is really our own doing, as we have discovered, through our decisions that we have made, being attached to this or that earthly material, thing. I can't think of another way to put it. So whatever it happens to be that we are attracted to. So let me go on. For by the very words, earthbound, surely a statement of being is implied, as with not being free to rise above, for example. And if that be the case, what then are the consequences to the inner core, to the spirit of man? What happens then to the free will gifted to humanity from the hand of the Almighty? Does that also become earthbound? And if so, how then does the spirit within man survive. So, Gregory, I'm going to summarize this words of the. So, let's say, Gregory, that we have become earthbound through our activity and decisions. How do we get out, if I can say that way, or escape or free ourselves from the earthbound situation? The goal we know is to return back to the spiritual world in heaven. So how do we, Gregory, once we have managed to get ourselves stuck on this earth, how can we free ourselves?
Very simply, through our activities, we have.
Oh, Gregory, did you hear me?
Can you hear me?
Okay. Can you just start again, Gregory? Yes. What somehow let's say connection disappeared for a moment. So please, can you start from the beginning?
Through the activities of the individual, it weaves threads which are invisible to the physical eye. These threads are woven in such a way that there is a dense connection between the soul and that which is striving after. A simple example will be a human personality has just passed on. However, he or she loves its food, loves to eat like no man's business. In all naturalness, that weaves a thread close to those who like to eat like no man's business. It may also be that the individual likes to steal. Such stealing are not available in the higher realms. Such arbitrary wickedness are only possible here on earth. So the individual, through its activities, goes close to those people where it can realize such activities. And for those who like to eat all different type of dishes, that individual will stay in the nearest neighborhood to enjoy the sensation of these people. For those who like to smoke, that individual that is so bent on smoking will gravitate close to those who like smoking like chimneys because it enjoys such sensation. It is the individual who supplies such energies as to be close to where it can enjoy such sensation. Seen from on high, that individual is trapped. And the question which is asked, how can we ensure that individual is not trapped? Very simply, let it give up that sensation, give it up and move away. Sometimes some further experiences may come his way as to push it away. And then, because it's unable to indulge on that, it will then focus on other things. So it's most of these things that really hold the spirit down. There are other scenarios in which you have a spirit engaged in some activities and has caused the death of another violently or through some other means. In all naturalness, when it severs itself, unless it then subsequently comes to the error of what it has done, it will be tied to the spot to experience the consequences of what it has dished out to others, until through its intuitions it comes to the realization of its error. Only then can others who wish to be of help come near the personality, because otherwise it severs itself from outside personalities because it focuses its energy on that particular spot. So it is the human personality through its free will that decided how it will go. If through its free will it directs the radiation that has reached it to wicked means, it means it will be bound to those wicked means. Those wicked manifestations are not found up in the lighter region. Those wicked manifestations, bad manifestations, evil manifestations can only be found here on earth or deeper in denser realm. Such manifestation may come to realization, and therefore the individual who is involved in such evil manifestations direct their gaze towards that, we go there. Whereas those who use their free will in the support of not only itself, but fellow human spirits that have come here to the earth to experience, in the sense of one for all and all for one, it will then be that such strivings will open the way for others to come near and assist him even at the point of departure, where it will then subsequently be within the realm of those that have such noble aspirations, and in support of one another, they will walk together and rise higher until it gets back home in the paradise of man. That is the moment where it is said, free at last. Free at last. Thank the Lord Almighty for having, through his will and love, made preparations in the wise weaving of the laws of creation to enable the human spirit to become self-conscious. The human personality is only free within the laws of creation through which it came into existence.
Thanks very much, Gregory, for this answer. Dear listeners, we've come to the end of our show tonight. Hope you've enjoyed this topic on Earthbound. It's, let's say, it covers a large area of our life to really understand it properly, you can say. It's not just the earth, because if we think of it, Earthbound is about our earthly life. It's actually our whole life is need to be considered actually. And I can only encourage you to read the Grail message to get a real proper understanding about it. In fact, there's a lecture in the Grail message called Earthbound, and that's how we chose the topic Earthbound tonight. However, I would say if you just read only that lecture alone, you wouldn't fully. You would need to know more. Have read the rest of the part of the Grail message already to get there. It's not a lecture at the beginning of the Grail message, let's say. So you would have to know something already just to get to the right conception of this, what we've been talking about tonight. So initially I thought I would read something from that lecture. That's found it without a rethink, and I think it's better to stick to what I usually read, which is the beginning of the Grail message, which is titled, or the foreword is the better way to put it, which is titled "For Your Guidance." The bandage falls, and belief becomes conviction. Liberation and redemption lie only in conviction. I'm addressing earnest seekers only. They must be able and willing to examine this matter objectively. Religious fanatics and irresponsible enthusiasts may hold aloof, for they are detrimental to the truth. As for the malevolent and prejudiced, they shall find their sentence in the very words. The message will strike only those who still carry within them a spark of truth and the yearning to be true human beings. To all such it will become the shining light and staff. It will lead them unswervingly out of all the chaos of the present-day confusion. The following word does not bring a new religion, but is intended as the torch to help all serious listeners or readers find the right path, which leads them to the longed-for height. Only he who bestirs himself can advance spiritually. The fool who uses extraneous aids for this in the form of ready-made opinions of others only walks his path as if on crutches, while ignoring his own healthy limbs. But the moment he boldly uses all the abilities which lie dormant within him, awaiting his call, to help in his ascent, he is employing the talent entrusted to him in accordance with his Creator's will, and will easily overcome all obstacles that seek to divert him. Therefore awake. Genuine faith lies only in conviction, and conviction comes solely through an inflexible weighing and examining. See that you are truly alive in the wonderful creation of your God, Aprushin. Dear listeners, if you wish to know more about the Grail message or want to get a copy of the Grail message for yourself, you can go to this website, which is www.grailmessage.com. I'll spell that, www.grail, Grail, message, MESSAGE.com. Gregory, is there anything you'd like to say to the listeners to say goodbye?
Wishing listeners a beautiful week ahead.
Thank you. Same from me, listeners. Have a beautiful week ahead. We'll be back as usual next Tuesday, 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. UK time with another topic. Take care, good night, and God bless.